Jim Button. Howdy to the greater Dallas-Fort Worth area. Thank y'all for being out here today. Listen, I want to thank Angie Jim Button for stepping up and helping out with the introduction there. As she knows, last year during a hotly contested race for her, I was going door to door in her district, knocking on doors, getting people to vote for Angie Jim Button. And let me tell you something. When a governor comes up to someone's doorstep in a wheelchair, there's not going to be anybody who says no to running for that. So Angie Jim Button won in a very close race last election. Let me tell you something. She's going to win by a far greater margin this election cycle. I also want to thank and recognize some others who are with us here today, and that is Representative, as Angie pointed out, soon-to-be Senator Tan Parker. Thank you, man. And we have with us Ben Bumgarner, candidate for House District 63. And Melissa Dennis, House District 115. Sarah Lamb, candidate for House District 114. And someone we have to send back, and that is J.J. Koch, Dallas County Commissioner. Man, we need some sanity on that commissioner's court, as well as Shelley Ackerley, the county treasurer. And we have with us Jennifer Stoddard Hudju, the Dallas County chair. Thank all of those leaders for being with us here today. They are doing a tremendous job, and they're going to be part of what you're going to be a part of, and that is driving up the turnout in this election. And that's so incredibly important. Listen, we are now less than 2 weeks away from the election, and already 3 days into early voting. And so I like that. You voted, what does that say? You voted in Dallas County.
Governor Abbott.
There you go. I thought you were a smart guy. Thank you for that, and that's exactly what we need from everybody else. But listen, I'm going to tell you the outcome of what's going to happen. We are going to win this November. And let me tell you why I'm so confident and know in advance that we're going to win, because the task that we have in front of us is extraordinarily easy. What we must do is we must show voters the contrast between the conservative policies that have made Texas number one versus the radical leftist agenda that Beto O'Rourke is trying to impose on you and your families. And listen, it could not be worse. Well, then we're not going to have anything from anybody from Beto O'Rourke. But here's what we are going to do. By showing those contrasts and principles of what we have been able to accomplish for you, Texas ranks number one in the United States of America as the fastest growing economy of any state in this country. Through that, since you all last reelected me, Texas has added far more new jobs than any other state in America. But listen, this is in contrast with what Beto seeks to do, because what he wants to do is to raise your taxes, increase your spending, and that would do nothing but impose even more inflation on your budgets, as well as destroy the jobs that we've been creating the past few years. I am running for re-election to keep Texas the number one state in America for jobs and the economy. Now listen, there are consequences and byproducts of having such a prolific economy. One of those is because of all the revenue that's been coming in to the coffers, revenue created by you, those who are the job creators, those who create the economy. You have caused us to have a record-setting budget surplus of $27 billion. And in case anybody misunderstood me, I did not use the word million. I said we have a $27 billion surplus. And listen, that's on top of about the $14 billion that we have in a rainy day fund. My point is this. That $27 billion has to be spent this next session. So we'll address needs that we have in the state of Texas. We will improve our schools. We will improve health care. But most of that money, who's that money belong to? You're exactly right. So what I want to do with at least half of that $27 billion, which is $13.5 billion, is I want to provide you with the largest property tax cut in the history of the state of Texas. Texas is the most prosperous state in the country, and you deserve to benefit from that prosperity with lower property taxes. But listen, as it concerns property taxes, here again, we have a point of contrast between the conservative values that Republicans stand for and what Beto O'Rourke stands for, because believe it or not, when Beto was on city council, he raised property taxes 3 different times. We cannot trust him in the governor's office being in charge of the legislature. We must ensure that we defeat him and elect somebody who is going to cut your property taxes. Now, one of the reasons why we have such a prolific budget surplus is because Texas ranks number 1 in the United States of America for oil and gas production. But here again, you see the contrast, because Beto came out and strongly embraced this radical leftist ideology of the Green New Deal that would destroy the oil and gas sector that we have in the state of Texas. It would eliminate hundreds of thousands of good-paying jobs, and because of the destruction of the oil and gas sector, it would drive up even higher the price that you are paying at the pump. I am running for re-election to keep Texas number 1 for the production of oil and gas in the United States. Another thing that we have to focus on, that we have to get done, is something that I see this young man right in front of me, this woman beside me. It says Parents Matter. And what they're talking about when they hold these signs that say Parents Matter, it involves our education system. And I like that. But kids matter, and parents matter. And once again, Beto stands for this radical ideology of teaching our kids things like critical race theory and other leftist agenda items. And he stands for wokeism in our public schools, and we are not going to let that happen. I will not allow your taxpayer dollars to be used to teach our kids to hate our country. I disagree with some of these Democrats. I believe that America is the greatest country in the history of the entire world. What we need to be teaching our kids is not to criticize our country, but to recognize why it is that America became the greatest country in the first place, and what we must do to continue to keep America the greatest country in the history of the world. I am the only candidate running for governor who is against the use of critical race theory in our schools. If you're against critical race theory, I need your vote. But as much of a danger as Beto's radical extremism agenda poses to our kids in schools, he even poses a greater danger to your public safety. Because as Angie pointed out, Beto came out in favor of and supported defunding the police. That is radical. It is dangerous. And we in Texas, we don't defund our police because we support our law enforcement officers, period. And that's why this past session I worked with Angie, I worked with Tan, and the Republicans drew a line in the sand, and we said we will not allow our law enforcement officers to be defunded, and that's why I signed a law that will defund any city that defunds their police. We will support our law enforcement officers. As dangerous as defunding the police is, there's actually something going on right now that's even more dangerous than defunding the police. Someone said, you're exactly right, is what's going on with Joe Biden's chaotic open border policies that's destroying Texas, destroying America, and it's extraordinarily dangerous. Just remember this very important fact. It was just 2 years ago that we had the fewest border crossings in decades. It was because 4 policies that had been put into place: remain in Mexico, Title 42, end of catch and release, and building a border wall. And then on top of that, just having an attitude that if you want to come to the United States of America, there is a legal way for you to do it, not an illegal way. Well, here again we have Beto siding up with Joe Biden, because Beto, not too long ago, said, oh, there's no problem on the border. He has his head in the sand about this. He even talked about reducing the enforcement of immigration laws. And that's no kind of attitude that we need in the governor's office in the state of Texas. Let me tell you what Texas has done to try to respond to these open border policies. Texas is the first state in the history of the United States to build our own border wall. We have the National Guard deployed to the border, and their job is to turn back or to repel people who are trying to get it into the United States illegally. And if people make it past them, they come to the Texas Department of Public Safety officers, and those DPS officers will arrest them for either trespassing in the state of Texas or violating my executive order and return them to the border. To show you how dangerous this is, it was just 2 weeks ago that the DPS, they arrested a man from Honduras who was trespassing in the state of Texas. And it turned out that he had a warrant for his arrest for murder. And so we have people wanted for murder crossing our border, and it's only the DPS that is securing us and our country from those kinds of dangers. And then on top of that, we are doing something that we are resorting to things that have never been done before. Most of the people that you see coming across the border, you see on TV, people coming across in single file, and they're being shepherded by someone, and that someone shepherding them is a member of the cartels. And they're taking them to a specific location, which is why they're in single file. And the location where they're taking them to is property that is owned, controlled, and operated by the federal government, by the Border Patrol. And when they arrive at that location, the Border Patrol processes their paperwork and then sets them free, legally authorized to remain in the United States. And then they dump them off in these small communities like Del Rio and Eagle Pass and others that have no capability whatsoever to be able to deal with these migrants. And so I was in a meeting talking to all the local leaders about this who were begging for help. And I said, let me take charge of this. And the week later is when we begin busing these illegal immigrants to Washington, D.C., to New York, to Chicago. These are self-proclaimed sanctuary cities, and they are expected to step up and live up to their virtue signaling of being a sanctuary city, and they get just 1,000 or 2,000, and they feel like they have to call out the National Guard and make declarations and get $1 billion. The mayor of New York is seeking $1 billion to deal with about 20,000 illegal immigrants. Listen, we get that many in just a couple of days on the border. If New York is going to get $1 billion for what they're having to deal with, Texas deserves $100 billion for what we have to deal with. Well, let me tell you something. All this is going to change pretty soon. It's going to change on November the 8th. And let me tell you why. Is because with the 3 Latinas who are running on the border in South Texas, Mayra Flores, and the other 2, listen, they are going to win traditionally Democrat districts on the border because the people on the border are so angry about the Biden administration's open border policies. And when they get elected and they go to Washington, D.C., the first thing they are going to do is to fire Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. And the Republicans in charge of the budget, they're going to pass a budget that will ensure that, for one, Border Patrol will be fully funded. ICE will be fully funded. Border Security will be fully funded. And they will reimburse the state of Texas for everything we had to come out of pocket to make sure that we secured our state. And build the wall, yes, absolutely. But along these lines, another thing that I'm fighting, because of Biden's open border policies, I'm fighting against this influx of deadly fentanyl. This fentanyl is now the leading cause of death of people between ages 18 and 45. Texas law enforcement, in our response to this, because Joe Biden is not doing his job, Texas law enforcement has seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the entire United States of America. Well, because of these drug cartels importing this fentanyl, this killing Texans, I'm tired of what's going on, and I declared these drug cartels as terrorist organizations, and we are going after these drug cartels. So let me just tell you the obvious. The obvious is there is a lot at stake in this upcoming election. There's a lot on the line. And what's on the line is your future, your jobs, your taxes, your safety, your freedom. But maybe most important of all, your values are on the line this election. So let me tell you something that you may not expect me to tell you. And that is the winner or loser of this election. It's not going to be me. It's going to be each of you. Because you're the winners. It's your values. It's you. It's your family. It's your children, your grandchildren, and it's your future that's on the line in this election. And as we speak, we have Beto trying to take a sledgehammer to your future that would destroy everything that we've been able to build up in this great state. And you know what? We are not going to let him win. We are going to beat Beto on November the 8th. We're going to win these Republican races up and down the ballot. We will keep Texas red. And we're going to keep Texas the best state in the United States of America. But here's the deal. There's only one way this gets done, and that is if you go vote. This is all about votes, more than speeches. Now, I know that this young man, as well as others here, have gone out and voted. Many of you have voted already. But I know this also. There's somebody in this room, several people, many people maybe, who have not yet voted. And so here's what I want you to do. After we get done, I'm going to be finished in 1 minute, and then we're going to take pictures, and then I want you to go vote. I have in my pocket the location of what I understand is the closest voting location to where we are right now. It happens to be 5 miles away. I can't believe it's that far away. But I hope I'm going to pronounce this right. It's called Fretz Park Library. All right? So a lot of people know Fretz Park Library. If you don't know where it is, I even have the address. Right? So just follow him home and you'll find it. So it's 6990 Beltline Road. 6990 Beltline Road. Everybody around here knows where Beltline Road is. Go there after you're done here. If you have not yet voted, go vote. Think about it. If we just have everybody in this room, make sure that if they haven't voted, they go vote today. That will really run up the numbers. But, if you think that you have done your job for democracy at that point in time, you're completely wrong. Because what's required in a democracy, it is a participation sport that requires you to get engaged yourself. And it requires more than just voting. It means that you use every tool and strategy that you have to make sure others go vote also. And so here's what I want you to do. I see people as we're speaking right now that are either using their phone for video or tapping into the phone, whatever the case may be. Most people have a phone in their hand or the purse or the pocket. And in that phone, you have something I do not have. You have contacts of your friends, your family, your coworkers, people that you know that I do not know and that I do not have in my contact list. And I know that all of you on average have at least 100 contacts in your phones. And we have at least 400, if not more than that, people here. But let's say we have 400 people here, and everybody has 100 contacts. We would have 40,000 people that we can turn out and vote because you go do your job to make sure we get that out. And so here's what I want you to do. This is going to be very simple. After you go vote, I want you to go home and text one simple sentence to all your contacts. Go vote for Governor Abbott today, period. But let me tell you in advance what's going to happen. For the most part, you're not going to get a reply to that. So you need to text that today. You need to text it tomorrow. You need to text it the next day and the day after that and the day after that. You got to text it until one of two things happens. Either you get a picture back that has a sticker on it like some people have on their chest right now showing that, yes, they did go vote. So they've complied with what you requested. Or until you get a text that says something like this. If you ever text me again, you will know you have reached your level of saturation. You will have done your job. And let me tell you what's going to happen. What's going to happen because you did your job to drive out 40,000 more votes right here in the greater Dallas area, or maybe your contacts are in Houston or some other part of the state of Texas. Those people will have gone to vote. And on election night, as I claim another victory to be governor of this great state, I will say is possible because of what the people in Dallas, Texas did to help me get reelected. So thank you all. God bless you all. And God bless the great state of Texas.